Hello, I'm doing a movie review, and the movie I want to review is the 1980 Italian horror film Cannibal Holocaust. Now, Cannibal Holocaust was made in 1979, but it was released in Italy in, I believe, February of 1980. Now, this is held as being one of the most disturbing films ever made, and it's also one of the most controversial films ever made. Now, in the case of most controversial movies, usually the controversy is over something really stupid. But in the case of this movie, now keep in mind, I do like this movie, but in the case of this movie, though, it really did kind of deserve its controversy, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Now, the director of this movie was actually arrested shortly after the film's release because they actually thought that he killed the people in this movie, because the kill sequences in this movie are so brutally realistic that people thought this was actually a snuff film, so they arrested the director thinking that he actually killed these people, so he had to bring all the actors in the movie into court to prove to them that he didn't kill anybody. Now we get into the film's controversy. Now, even though the director of this movie didn't kill any people, there are scenes in this movie where you see animals getting killed, and all that's real. Those are real animals being killed in this movie, and that's why I personally feel like this film really does deserve to be as controversial as it is. Now, even though I do like the movie, I really can't defend that aspect of the movie, and it's one of my major problems with the film. Also, the animal cruelty that's in this movie kinda contradicts the whole point of the movie, but the director of this movie has said that he's regretted what he did, and I don't blame him for regretting that, because really the fact that they killed real animals for the sake of entertainment really does contradict what the point of the movie is supposed to be. But if you can look past the animal cruelty, which I know is probably very hard to do, it's actually a really good horror film, and luckily this DVD comes with another version of the movie where the animal cruelty scenes are edited out, which is a good thing because really they added nothing to the plot line and you could have easily edited those out of the movie. So if you don't want to see like real animals being killed, just watch the version of the movie that has all the animal cruelty taken out. And even without the animal cruelty, it's still a really disturbing horror film. Like, this is one of those movies that, as much as I do love the movie, I really can't defend it, though. Now, the plot of the film is it's about a group of documentary filmmakers from the States who go down to the Amazon jungle to make a documentary about life in the Amazon, but they end up disappearing, so this professor named Professor Monroe is sent down to look for them, and the first half of the movie is about this professor looking for them, and eventually he finds that they're all dead, and he finds the footage that these documentary filmmakers shot. So he brings it back to the States, and the rest of the movie from then on is him and these television executives reviewing the footage that these filmmakers shot, and you as the audience member sees the footage that these filmmakers shot. I should point that out, that this is a very early example of a found footage movie. I think this may actually be the first found footage movie. Like, this movie actually did kind of inspire movies like The Blair Witch Project and Paranormal Activity. But as you're watching this documentary footage that these filmmakers shot, you find out some of the stuff that they did down there, and you find out that they kinda deserve to die, because you find out that they actually set fire to a native village, and they were planning on editing it to make it look like it was an enemy tribe that did it, and you also find out that these people actually raped a native girl, and obviously they weren't planning on actually putting that in the documentary, so you find out that these guys did a lot of really sleazy shit, and really you find out they kind of got what was coming to them, and really the whole point of this movie is really just how savage Western civilization can actually be, because, like, we in Western civilization, we view all these, like, isolated tribes in, like, South America and places like that still practice cannibalism. We view them as savage, but you also gotta understand that that's the culture that they grew up in. So, what's our excuse for being even more savage, like doing the shit that the characters in this movie did? So that's kind of what the main point of the movie is. So once again, the whole point of this movie, the whole message of the movie is really how savage Western civilization can actually be, and these documentary filmmakers, or quote-unquote documentary filmmakers, instead of actually being real journalists and trying to make an informative documentary, they're trying to make an entertaining documentary, but they're using very sleazy and downright evil tactics in order to do this. And that's where my problem with the whole animal cruelty thing comes in, because the whole point of this movie is how, you know, these people were doing these despicable things just to make an entertaining documentary, yet the director of this actual movie killed real animals in what's supposed to be an entertaining movie. So that the fact that he did that kind of contradicts the whole message that the movie is trying to convey. Now, in this movie, the character of Alan Yates, who is the main director of this documentary, he really is the villain of this movie, and he is such an evil bastard. Like, in the movie, there's this scene where they come across this native girl impaled on a wooden stake, and you actually see Alan smiling a little bit, like he's actually amused by what he's seeing, and then the cameraman's like, "Watch it, Alan, I'm rolling," and then he puts on this act of, like, fake sympathy, where he's like, "Good lord, I can't understand the reason for such cruelty," and he's just such a scumbag in this movie. He really did, pretty much all these filmmakers, they really did kind of deserve what they got at the end. The only one who really didn't deserve what they got was the character of Faye, who is Alan's girlfriend in the movie. She's the only one of these documentary filmmakers who does seem to have at least kind of a soul, and in fact, in the scene where they were raping that native girl, she was the one person who was actually trying to stop them, so she was the one who I would say probably didn't deserve what she got at the end. Now, I actually really liked the character of Harold Monroe. He really is actually a really likable character. Now, the character of Harold Monroe, he really is more or less the audience's avatar, for lack of a better term, but he is a likable character, and he does kind of go through an arc throughout this movie. In the beginning of the movie, the character of Harold Monroe seems to be a lot more optimistic about things, but by the end of the movie, after he has watched all this footage, he definitely seems to have a much more pessimistic view on things by the end of it, when he realizes just how cruel people can really be, and he has a great line at the end of this movie where he goes, "I wonder who the real cannibals are." And also, I love the music in this movie. This movie has some pretty phenomenal music, actually. So yeah, Cannibal Holocaust, if you can look past the fact that they killed real animals in this movie for no reason whatsoever, which I know is kind of a hard thing to look past, but if you ignore that, it's actually a pretty good horror film. Actually a really good horror film. Like, if you removed all the animal cruelty from the movie, it would be a phenomenal horror film, because it does have a really powerful message in it about society. The problem, once again, is the fact that the filmmakers behind this movie actually killed real animals for no reason whatsoever. So even though I do love this movie, I really can't defend it. But if this movie sounds like it's up your alley, I would recommend it. But if it doesn't sound like it's up your alley, because this movie's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, so if this doesn't sound like it's for you, then I definitely wouldn't recommend it. But if this does sound like it's up your alley, then I would recommend it. But yeah, that's my review on Cannibal Holocaust, and bye.